to the Talent Optimization Podcast, the go-to podcast for CEOs and HR professionals wanting to bridge the gap between the strategy and tactical implementation of talent optimization within their organizations. Through interviews, predictive index, and personal experience, your host, Tracy Shirk, helps you discover the facets of talent optimization from both a CEO and HR perspective to truly create the dream team for your organization. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Welcome to Talent Optimization. Today, we are chatting about how we attract and retain staff to our organizations, but we're going to do a fun twist to this. One of the key things that we love about bringing individuals into our organization is ensuring that we have a match specifically with the culture of our organization. And a big part of that is giving back to our community. So with me today is our guest, Sara Horein. And Sara is a business owner with Poinet Ironworks, along with a community volunteer with American Red Cross. So Sara, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tracy. Been a long time.
It has been a long time, and it's so fun to catch up. So Sara and I actually grew up together. So it's so fun when, kind of things cycle back and forth throughout stages of life.
Yeah, definitely. Tracy and I actually met in the 4th grade when I moved to Beloit. She was my first friend. So it's so good that we are now connecting as adults and business professionals.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I think is funny how life progresses is how we actually got reconnected. And that was in the middle of COVID. I got some random text on LinkedIn saying, hey, would you be interested in volunteering for the Red Cross? And I knew you were a huge supporter and Red Cross volunteer. And I reached out and said, what is this? Is this spam?
Yeah. And it was great to get your message. I was like, let me check into this. I'm not sure if they are recruiting for this position or not. And sure enough, after a little digging, I found out that they really had a volunteer opportunity that was right up your alley in human resources. So, for 6 months, we then worked on a project together with the Red Cross, which was amazing.
Absolutely. And, so telling that story to say, you never know when you're actually recruiting by just reaching out and being like, what the heck is this? Right. So, when we're talking about attracting and retaining staff, one of those key things is having that values match within the organization and the individuals that you're bringing in. And, so that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about here today. And Sara, I know you've got some great experiences of how you've really worked to bring meaningful volunteer opportunities into organizations, and then also bring some, work that are important to employees inside of Poinet, so to say, back into the community. And I'm just curious, how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, thanks for having me on in March. And I would be remiss not to add in that March is Red Cross Month, which has been declared Red Cross Month since 1943 with a proclamation from President Franklin D. Roosevelt. So it's been over 75 years that we've been celebrating Red Cross Month during the month of March. So I just wanted to add in that tidbit before I dove into how we bring in volunteerism in our organization. And one of the ways that we started doing that at Poinet was doing blood drives. So my husband and I have acquired Poinet Ironworks about 4 or 5 years ago. And when we got in there, we really wanted to bring a spirit of volunteerism and philanthropic activities to Poinet. So with my experience in volunteerism in the Red Cross, I said, hey, Jeff, what do you think about doing some blood drives at Poinet? We have about 90 employees. And my husband was like, I think that's a great idea. So I reached out to the Red Cross to see if we could get some blood drives going, and come to find out there were no blood drives in the village of Poinet or in the surrounding area. So the Red Cross thought it would be a great opportunity to start running blood drives in the village. So what ended up happening was that we now, kind of fast forward 2 years forward, we are running quarterly blood drives in the village and have about 80 to 90 people attend the blood drives. 30 of those people are employees of Poinet Ironworks. And, I think this is kind of a great story about corporate goodwill and how small companies can make an impact. One of the cool things about it, since we are a steel manufacturing company, we can't actually host the blood drive in our company. So we have to go to the village town hall for the blood drives to occur. And one of the things that my husband does is he actually transports our employees over to the village town hall. So about 3 to 4 employees get in his truck and then drive over to the village town hall. And they all think it's pretty neat to be able to ride in the truck with him and have a little chat with the CEO and then get a ride back. So it's been, I think, a win-win, not only for the company, but for the village and then also for the Red Cross. That's one way that we've kind of given back to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those things with any volunteer opportunity, right, is making it easy for the individuals to actually do that volunteer opportunity. And along with volunteering, not only is it goodwill for the employee and the organization, but it's doing something that's meaningful. I mean, we are in the middle of the worst blood shortage we've ever seen. And so that's something that we're seeing right now that's really important. I know that the campus that I'm on, we actually had our first blood drive here a couple months ago. And it's one of those where it's so easy, especially when you can do it on site, to do that. And it's one of those where you're actually bringing employees together that they feel valued and valuable in what they're doing. And of course, that increases employee engagement and retention. So all those things are really great items to do. And so one of the other things, Sara, that you had, talked a little bit about is how do you then talk about, those volunteer opportunities and really kind of get the buzz about that, not only within staff internally, but also within the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do a lot of work on social media. So with the blood drive, for example, we posted a picture of the bloodmobile outside of our village town hall and put it on the Point at Ironworks Facebook page. And then it's also on our website, just kind of one way showing that we are, supporting the community. And then there's oftentimes chatter from the employees talking about how much they enjoyed the opportunity to give, and I think lots of times people don't make the time to give outside of work. And so we're providing 45 minutes out of their day for them to go and give blood, which is something that I think a lot of people don't think about. It takes time to give, and we're providing that opportunity for them, paid, which is different depending on your level and if you're hourly or salary. And most of these workers are hourly workers. So I think that's one way that we create buzz. Another interesting thing that we did for the city, we live in Wisconsin, and in northern Wisconsin, it gets very cold in the wintertime. And the children, when they go to school, they oftentimes are crossed by crossing guards. From elementary school or middle school, there's a crossing guard that will cross the children to go to school safely. And the crossing guards have been asking for some shelter, like an umbrella or something like that. And we got the word that the crossing guards wanted some kind of shelter. So since we manufacture basically anything out of steel, we decided that we would build some shelters for these crossing guards. And we actually came up with the idea of building these English phone booths because we can build anything, right? And we thought they'd be creative and fun. So we built 2 English phone booths that are red and have windows in them. They include a heater and a radio. And
is it Red Cross red?
It is Red Cross red. Thanks. Good question. And it says crossing guard, and there's a nice star on the front of the phone booths. So we placed them in 2 different locations within the city, and these have caused all the buzz in Point at. I mean, the crossing guards are getting honks, and the children just think they're great. But what this has done is it created a news article for us, just a positive PR. It's on our Facebook page. And we've actually gotten people to apply to work at Point at because they love our corporate goodwill. And they're just enthusiastic about how we give back to the community and the way that we just give. And I think that's a true testament to, the times that we're in right now. There's such a shortage of employees and so many jobs. To have people actually come in and say, hey, I like what you're doing in the community says a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes back to, when we talk about, those benefits programs that we have for our staff to really not only retain them, but also, when we're looking to recruit individuals, is those benefit packages are incredibly important. But what's in front of that is the reputation in the community. And so much of that happens right now with social media. What's happening on social media? What's the buzz about those organizations? And then having that backed up in the actual benefit plans. And some of the really interesting benefit plans that we're seeing right now that include some of these kind of things are, 8 hours of paid time towards a volunteering opportunity of your choice. Sometimes that's things like blood drives. Sometimes that's things like the United Way's Give Back Day or whatnot. And, when you can use those things and then track it, there's actually a company called Altruize that will track all of your volunteer hours and then send those in so that you can track exactly how many volunteer hours are needed, because those nonprofits need to track those hours. So, again, it's the goodwill, it's the alignment of values that attract and retain the best quality staff, but it's also being a little creative about how do we go about doing this and how do we do it in a way that allows our staff to truly come together and get to know each other a little bit more so that they're engaged with each other, because that means that they're being great team members and going to further projects while they're at work as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm thinking back to the news station and when they came in to do the interview about these phone booths. They wanted to interview my husband, the CEO, and Jeff was like, "No, don't interview me. I don't want to be on camera. Let's interview the guy that welded these phone booths. Let's interview the woman who decided that they should be English, telephone booths. Let's interview our people."
Right.
The brains behind this. And so I think with that, it shows staff that, yeah, you can be a leader too. You can, as a welder, you can be on TV. You can have your 15 minutes of fame. As the creative behind these phone booths, you can be on TV. And I think we really pride ourselves in elevating our leaders, no matter where you are in the organization. And I think that speaks volumes to what's needed right now in the workforce.
Absolutely. And the fact that every single person has a different need, right? And that's based on what our natural behaviors are. So just because you're a welder doesn't mean you don't have a need to be seen and to be heard and to get that praise publicly. But yet not every welder is going to want that. Some of them are not ever going to want to be on TV ever. And that's okay too. And it's really honoring what a person's individual behavioral needs are and ensuring that those are met. And that's where things get really fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you know a lot about that.
Absolutely. So, Sara, as we kind of start to close down today, and P.S., all I could think about when you were talking about the phone booths is putting together the floats for homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
Teamwork and putting homecoming floats together, which I don't even think they do anymore.
Aww.
So anyway, with that being said, those projects that bring people together are incredibly important in building teams. So with that, what is a specific takeaway that you have for executives or CEOs listening in today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's important that executives are, weaving their company culture into the community, so we are very philanthropic and believe in volunteerism. So we brought that to the community. We brought the Red Cross to Poinet. And I think that speaks volumes to what we hold as important and value. And I think that's what an executive should think about as they move forward.
Absolutely. And then what about for HR professionals? What's a takeaway that you have for them to really think about or to look at, especially as they're looking at what volunteer opportunities are potentially available for our staff?
Yeah, I think it's most important for HR professionals to really talk about what they're doing, market it, get on social media, just get a PR piece done. Really spread the word about what you're doing, because if you're not talking about it, then who is? I think it's really getting the buzz out there.
Absolutely. And I think the other side of this that we haven't quite talked about yet is the volunteer opportunities that are available. A lot of times that, tends to sometimes fall on HR's plate, but opening that up to your staff to say, what are those volunteer opportunities that are meaningful to you? What are those organizations? Because I know just at the Red Cross, as being on their board and you as well, there's so many volunteer opportunities that are available within the Red Cross that's beyond just blood drives, right? There's board positions, but there's also
disasters, disasters, service to the armed forces. I mean, there's so many different opportunities out there. I think as an HR executive, I would ask my employees, what pulls at your heartstrings? What are you passionate about? Is it mental health awareness? Is it, do you have family in the military? I think you need to push your employees a little bit to ask, because once you find where their passion is, that's where you'll get the dedication and the commitment.
Well, Sara, thank you so much for joining us. And it is Red Cross Month. So specifically during Red Cross Month, and sharing some of your insights of how you've really used volunteerism to impact your employees, but also retain and engage them through the workforce. So thank you so much. And we look forward to having you join us again next week. Have a great week.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Talent Optimization Podcast. You'll find more tools and resources for CEOs and HR professionals looking to bridge the strategies versus implementation gap of talent optimization at elevatedtalentconsulting.com. We've also created a free, valuable resource for you to begin bridging the gap called the Talent Optimization Foundation Membership Program. You can access it for free at elevatedtalentconsulting.com/foundation. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode to learn more about talent optimization and creating a dream team for your organization.